Well, Dos, honestly, I mean this. I've had a couple of songs stuck in my head literally all day, and it's amazing to be singing across from the artists. LACHIE GILL, welcome to the Dos and D Show.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Oh, we're so excited,
I'm going
mate.
to put you on the spot. What song was it?
A Sad Summer.
Hey.
It just can't. I can't stop. I can't stop listening to it. It's amazing. It's a great song.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. That's
Mate.
what we wanted.
Oh, exactly right, mate. Well, firstly, welcome, but then secondly, just what a couple of days it's been for you with that single.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird how songs can take a little while to catch on. Like in any sense, it's like for this, it's been the radio. It's like it started getting played on late nights, which, you know, is 10 p.m. onwards, which you could say not too many people are listening to the radio. Maybe they are, but you want to get into those, you know, drive home slots and things like that. But every couple of weeks, it's like, oh, it's been added to nights. So it's playing at 7 p.m. and now it's just work days. So it's just can play at any time, and I'm hearing it at 5 p.m. on the drive home, and I'm just like, what is going on?
That's crazy.
So it's been great.
What is that feeling like? Like, it just describe to us what it feels like to literally be driving or being in a cafe or being anywhere and your song is playing. Like, I just can't even comprehend what that would feel like.
Well, it still doesn't really make sense to me. Like I hear, I don't think you understand, you know, how cool that, like how big of an achievement that is, because it's kind of happening and you're just like, oh my God, like, and it happens a few times and you're just like, it's so weird that you just like can't really, you know, understand it. But yeah, I got in the car with a few friends the other day and listening to the Fox, and it just came on, and I'm just like,
It just came on.
yeah, and I'm just like, what the hell? Because I get like people sending me messages being like, your song's on the radio, and if I'm in the car, I'll flick it on and listen to it. But
Or you could just go to Spotify and play it.
or I could go to Spotify and play it. But that was the first time I'd actually heard it,
cool.
and it's just like, yeah, this is sick.
That's
so hopefully
amazing.
that keeps going.
Gosh, that's unreal. Well, fill us in, I guess, a little bit around before The Voice, right? Let's go back a little bit. We'd love this. Is this the first podcast interview you've ever done? Or have you done a couple?
I reckon I've done a couple. Maybe I don't want to offend anyone, but
No.
you know,
No, you have.
first proper one with the full setup.
You've done a
cameras
few.
and the-
You've done a few before, by the sounds. But would love to hear it on the Dos and D Show. A bit of a background on the beginning. So you've been writing music a long time before The Voice even happened, haven't you?
Yeah. I was writing music probably from 18. I'm almost 25 now, a week away.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, mate.
What date?
The 20th
Oh,
of Jan.
close.
On the 18th.
Yeah, Dos is close.
So yeah, I was writing from probably 18, which is kind of a late start, you know, in a certain degree of some people that I know that start when they're 8 years old singing songs. But I was a little bit later and found music at school and started doing it through year 11 and 12. And then, yeah, once I finished school, I was like, I wouldn't mind doing a few gigs and playing some music, you know, here and there. And so started writing with that, and it just got like bigger and bigger in terms of just people listening to me and going, that was really good. And you kind of hear that a few times and you're like, oh, okay. Like, starts as a hobby and eventually you're like, I want to do this properly. So, and I always knew that you couldn't really be an artist if you weren't writing your own songs. It never really made sense to me, artists that are getting songs written for them. It was sort of like, no, I don't want to be that guy. So I just started writing heaps, and you write some absolute trash to begin with. I mean, sometimes you think it's good and then you look back on it and you're like, wow.
Can I ask, is a lot of it heartbreak related?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you're writing your songs in your bedroom, you know, late at night, like most of my songs were coming to me at 10 p.m. onwards, you know, and it's like, you're not exactly having the happiest thoughts when it's 10 p.m. and you're sitting in your room with your acoustic guitar. So
At least it's authentic. Because I always think about these sad songs that come on the radio, and I'm like, these people that are recording these are sitting on millions of dollars. They know it's going to relate to the everyday person, but they don't give a shit.
yeah, so it's like it was a lot of sad music to begin with, and then got to the point where I was sort of confident enough to start writing with other people and you know, doing a few writing sessions with other people, and you can come up with some different things. It's not always sad because you are in a studio or something, a bit more of a fun vibe, and keep writing. But yeah, so I released 3 songs before I went on The Voice, and you know, that was partly what I wanted to do before I thought about a show, because I had auditioned when I was 18 years old for The Voice.
Okay.
And when I knew sort of nothing.
How did that go?
Well, terribly.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about the industry. I wasn't that great at what I was doing. And I just sort of thought, oh, this will be cool. Went there, and luckily they had seen that I wasn't quite ready. You know, it'd be pretty obvious to know that I wasn't ready or good enough to sort of take that step. So they had said that to me. They said, you know, go work on yourself. You know, maybe in a little bit of time, couple of years, you can come back and we'd be happy to have you. So I was sort of like, okay. I was cut. I was so cut, you know, getting the email saying you're not going to get an audition.
So you didn't even make the audition stage?
Nah, so it was just for the producers, playing for them. And then, you know, I went away from that going, fuck you guys. Like, I'm going to do this myself. Like, I'm going to go out, work out what sort of musician I wanted to be, what genre, what lane, and just work my ass off until, you know, I get the opportunities coming to me, not having to go out and get them. That's sort of what I wanted. I wanted to be good enough that people are like, oh crap, okay, now he's got his shit sorted. So yeah, just started writing heaps and heaps, and then eventually, yeah, I think it was probably 2 years ago, I released my first song, Belong, and that was the first song that I was like happy enough for it to be put out to people. You know, all the songs before that I sort of liked, but I didn't love enough to share it with other people. So yeah, from that point I released a couple more, and then got a Instagram message actually from one of the sort of scouts and people on The Voice, just saying, hey, do you want to come back and audition?
So they scout.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they do it quite a lot. I think probably more than what you'd think. There is still organic,
Sure,
you know, auditions happening with people coming and trying it out. But I think to get to a standard that they really want in terms of having the best talent, they have to go out and find it. Because some people, you know, are happy just singing in their bedroom or, you know, singing at the pub. They're not necessarily looking for a TV opportunity. But, you know, if they get someone message them saying, hey, do you want to come on? It's sort of,
yeah,
they go, oh, that would be cool. Go
Yeah.
on, tally, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what happened to me, but it was more feeling super comfortable with where I was with my music, knowing what sort of artist I wanted to be, what sort of music I was already writing, and being old enough to sort of not exactly do it on my own terms, because in that sort of situation, you have to let yourself go a little bit, you know, you have to sort of go with the flow to a certain degree. But I knew that if there was something that I wasn't happy with happening, I could shut it down and say, hey, I don't want to be put up in that light, or I don't want to, you know, come across as being fake when that's not really the story.
Okay.
Whereas I think if I was 18 and I had got on, it would have just been like, oh, okay, you want to do that? Yep, sure, let's do that.
Yeah, of course.
And you just wouldn't even second guess it. And then you might look back on it and be like, oh God, why did
They
I?
took advantage of me.
Yeah. So I didn't want to be that in that situation. So it all worked out perfectly. And I sort of came back. And again, I didn't do it on my own terms in the fact of like, I want to do this. But it was just telling them how I felt, you know, working with them to make sure that it was the right thing for me. Because I never wanted to come off the show and start doing what I actually love doing and write what I actually love doing. And I didn't want it to make zero sense to what was happening on the show.
Sure.
I wanted it to be nice, smooth. Oh, he was singing those songs on the show. Makes sense because he's making this music.
That's interesting, and we'll get into kind of the future and what's upcoming a bit later on. Before we kind of even get stuck into The Voice, who were your biggest like musical influences growing up, like, or even now, like?
Yeah, so a lot of people get asked this question and they sort of have these like old bands and artists that they're like, yeah. But I just don't think I had that sort of influence when I was a kid. I mean, my dad listened to music and mum listened to music, but they never had those artists. Like I remember dad listening to like Silverchair and the Police and things like that. But it was just...
It was jukebox kind of stuff.
It was that music they play in the car and you sort of don't really get too invested in it. But I sort of, in the artists like Lewis Capaldi, Dean Lewis.
Surely Lana Del Rey.
Lana Del Rey, Dermot Kennedy, sort of that very raw, beautiful voice that carried it rather than, you know, the pop stars.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
I loved Ed Sheeran from the start, but he was never someone that I looked up to and got super, you know, inspired by. It was more those early stage people that are just super raw, super vulnerable, writing this great music. And that was where I was like,
Yep.
they're the people that I want to be like.
And is that how you kind of gain some type of skill through writing music? Is it through, for you, listening to those people write music?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk to my sisters. When we all lived together, they would tell me to shut up at least 10 times a day. Yeah, it would be like, shut the fuck up and stop singing. Like I would just sing non-stop wherever I was. I'd just sing. I never really had, you know, lessons or proper training in playing guitar or singing. It was just like I loved it. I just loved it, and I just listened to people so much that naturally I'd get bits and pieces from different artists of their styles, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, you sound like this guy," and every person that they say, I'm like, yeah, it's because I listen to them so much, you know.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm not purposely trying to copy them and follow their style. It's just what I love listening to. So naturally, I'm gonna, you know, learn how to sing little bits like them or write similar style music to them. So
Sure, yeah.
yeah, but I just was singing a lot, and then it just turned into a massive passion, and I was just like, yeah, I have
unreal.
to do this.
So good.
Yeah.
So take us to the blind auditions of The Voice, or even prior to that, what's actually the process? Take us a little bit behind the scenes to, you know, being on such a huge show. What are the lead up steps to that first or that blind audition that where we'll get to see?
Yeah, it's massive. There's such a long stretch of things that you need to do before you even get on the stage. There's multiple sort of online elements where you got to put your application forward, tell them about yourself, and then you sort of, I think I sent through some videos of me singing, and then you go on to the next stage and you're singing for the producers.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, you go to, you know, wherever you go, studio in the city, and sing for them. And again, you wait a week or two, wait to hear back from them, and then you get the all clear to go to Sydney. And even once you get that sort of all clear, you go on to Sydney, you're going to audition. It's not 100% that you're going to get on the show.
Not guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely not. So it's like you could fly to Sydney, have your song ready. You could even perform an audition, but it may not make the cut for TV. So you're still always in that sort of feeling of like, oh, am I gonna get on there? But yeah, massive process, and then fly to Sydney and we did a one sort of trial, one practice, and then it was the real deal.
Wow.
And it was terrifying.
Oh, yeah. What song did you sing?
I sung "If the World Was Ending" by JP Sachs, Julie Michaels, and yeah, it's just got this very vulnerable start where it's like my voice is super low, and when I'm nervous, you can hear everything. You know, you can hear all the little shakes, and that was pretty terrifying. And then it goes into a big bit, and I'm sort of more comfortable in that big bit, but I've never felt nerves like I had on that day.
How long did you have to wait at like there before you actually walk onto stage? Like,
Yeah,
you there
well,
for hours, or was it?
Yeah, well, that was the thing. So we sort of, I think my call time was maybe 7 a.m. And I was lucky because I was in the first group. I was actually second person to audition for the whole show.
Really?
Yeah.
For that whole season, you were the second person to audition.
Yeah, and I was the first girl. She didn't turn a chair, and I'm like, oh God, and then so I was second and the first person to turn a chair for the season. But
not just one chair.
yeah,
You got all of them.
but I did wait sort of behind the stage for quite a while. You know, you go there and you think you're about to go on, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hang on, they're doing something. And I'm like, all right. So I'd have my last sip of water before I go out there, make sure, you know, my mouth's nice and wet, and then
Guys, you give me anxiety.
Me
you know,
too.
and
My
then,
stomach
and then
is
it's like,
churning.
all right, you're almost ready to go up. Yep, get ready. And I'm like, okay, this is it. And then it's like, oh, hang on, they've got to do something. And I'm like, all right, give me the water again. I'll take my last
Yeah,
sip.
Guy Sebastian needs a little touch up in the makeup.
Yeah. And by the end of it, I'm absolutely busting for a week.
Oh, no.
I'm like, is this actually going to be happening soon, or can I run to the bathroom? And they're like, no, it's happening. I'm like, okay, sip of water. And then it eventually it came around. That was after, probably half an hour of proper standing, side stage. And then it was like, all right, artist walking. And then you walk out, the door's open, and you're just like, holy crap.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was seriously terrifying.
Is there a part of you though, like as terrifying as it is in that moment, looking back, is there a part of you that goes, I'd love to go back into that moment again? Because even as scary and nerve-wracking as it would have been, you're not going to get a feeling like that again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would never change it. I'd always want to go do it again. But I think, even after sort of all the experience and going through that, I still think if I was to go back and audition again for the same show, I'd still be pretty nervous because there's just so much going on. There's just so much going on, and it's like, you're trying to focus on singing the song right and singing properly, but then you've got all these other different elements that are, adding nerves. You've got the coaches that are literally got their back to you with their chairs. You can't see them, and you're just like
the biggest names in music.
Yeah, and everything's playing on your mind, and there's just honestly so many things going through your head. Am I going to get through? Am I going to get the words right? And there's cameras everywhere. It's just so foreign, so far from anything I'd ever done. So I'm just sort of glad I got the lyrics right. And
do you think you ever feel like those kind of nerves again? Like, I mean, obviously, like we're talking off air about doing things like carols and these gigs that are all going to come in the future, but because of the unknown of that situation, and you're trying to prove yourself and to the whole country, and let alone 4 judges. But do you think you'll ever feel that feeling of anxiety or nerves again in terms of as a performer?
I don't think it'd get to that level.
Yeah.
Again.
I just can't imagine it. I'm just mesmerised by it.
It'd have to be a massive gig. It'd have to be a massive show, I think, to get anywhere close.
Yeah.
Because, even some of the bigger ones that I've done since the show, it's like you naturally get nerves. I get nerves anytime I perform, but they're nerves that you can, like hold on to and sort of control to make sure that you still sing well. Those nerves I couldn't control. It's just like they're coming out, and you're going to be able to hear it in my voice, but it is what it is. And I think they sort of take it easy on the artists as well, because they know how scary it is. So a little bit of a shake in the voice, it's like that's how it is. They sort of see through that and they go, all right, this guy can sing beyond that. Like, I don't think anyone would have sung their best in those auditions. I just don't think it would be possible unless you're just non-human. Like, my friend Robbie Dolan, who was on the show, he was the jockey. He's probably the one exception because he just doesn't feel nerves. I don't know if it's because he was so new to singing, like he'd never sung on a stage before, and he was just like, and he just went up there, and I saw him backstage, and he was just so chill, and I'm like, do you understand what's going on? Like, and he's just happy, like he's like, I'm ready to get out there, in his accent. I can't do the accent, and he was just so chill about it, and just didn't really feel nerves. But I think other than him, everyone would have been feeling it. Yeah.
And then you obviously had the tough decision to choose a coach. That's nerve-wracking in itself as well, because you've got, 4 people sitting there to choose from, and you've got Guy Sebastian, Keith Urban, Rita, obviously, who was your coach, and Jess Mowboy. Like, personally, I choose Keith. But
he went the other night, actually.
Yeah, I love Keith.
He's a legend.
My family, we just love Keith. But, mate, that must have been hard too.
Yeah, it was. It's funny, I sort of went into it going, I don't care who my coach is. If I get through, happy days. Like, all of them are great. But they sort of want to know who you want to choose. They sort of, I don't know if it's...
prior to
you going out there, they sort of ask, who would you go with if they all turned? And you're sort of like, oh, I don't care. But, eventually I was sort of like, I'd love to be with Guy, because I think I can see myself getting along with him and, actually being mates with him beyond the show and things like that. Not that I wouldn't with the others, but I don't know, just that sort of...
It's relatable as well.
Relatable, sort of same lane. He goes for the Crows, I go for the Crows. So it's like...
It's all footy.
We're gonna be best buds. So I was like, Guy. And then, you know, after I performed, they're all turned around. I'm like, oh my God, I can actually go with Guy here. And then he gets blocked. And I was like, okay, now I've got to choose on the spot, like out of the other three. I'm like, oh my goodness. So that was, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal to me. You know, it was like, oh, it can't be Guy, right? It's going to be Rita Ora. Like, it's pretty cool.
Whoever the hell it is, amazing.
Yeah. It was funny because I'm very much like a realist in the way of like, I would rather a coach look at me and go, that wasn't your best performance. You know, you did this okay, but I think you really need to work on this, rather than someone going, that was amazing, you're incredible, you're going to be an absolute star, you know? And that's what Guy did. Like when they got a chance to talk, he said it how it is. A lot of it got cut out. So it sort of seems like he was being nice, but the stuff that got cut out, it was like, he was pretty brutal.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, he was pretty brutal. He was like, I know that wasn't your best performance. You know, your nerves took over and it didn't sound great and this and that. And I'm sort of like, oh, like,
Wow.
It was going from this big high to like just absolutely shut down. But I'm like, that's what you want in someone that, you know, is going to coach you. It's like you want someone that's going to be honest with you, not pump up your tires all the time, and then help you work on those things. So yeah, very much so I was like, oh, I want to be on Guy's team, but it didn't work out that way, and it sort of turned out.
Who knows?
Turned out for the best.
If you went with Guy, you might not have won.
Well, that's the thing. His team was absolutely stacked with amazing singers, so it could have been different.
What's your relationship with the coaches as the show goes through? Like, how much time do you actually spend with them day to day? And yeah, what's the process behind the scenes?
Yeah, so I would say that you don't spend a whole lot of time with the coaches. I don't know whether, you know, COVID and the situation that was going on had a play in that, because, you know, we would genuinely studio back to hotel, staying in the hotel, and, you know, had to order your groceries online and get them dropped off.
Oh, right.
Because that was the time when, you know, COVID was going nuts. And it's like, if you happen to get COVID, like, you're in big strife. Like, that could stop the whole show. So, yeah, I don't know if previous years that they were catching up with their coaches outside of the show, you know, going for lunch. I have no idea. But in this season, it was very much so. You sort of saw them for the filming aspects, and that was kind of it. But you have a massive team working with you and helping you through sort of every step. You know, you've got a big music team that can help with the songs and the arrangements and things, and then the coaches are sort of doing bits and pieces and more sort of a bit of that mentoring side and like mental stuff, I guess. Yeah.
How long is the production? You know, from the day you walk in, I'm assuming you don't come back to Melbourne at all, except for maybe before the finale. But then again, I don't know. How long is the whole time?
Yeah, so we were filming probably for 2.5 months, 2 months.
Yeah.
And for me, again, it wasn't ideal, but I had heaps of shows and like weddings sort of booked in around that time. So I actually was flying back to Melbourne a fair bit just to do these weddings and then heading back up.
Did they compensate you financially, by the way?
Yeah, they did. You're sort of on like a bit of an allowance. It was more for food, but you covered, you know, accommodation and flights and things like that. But yeah, I was coming back and playing a wedding, or coming back playing a little show or whatever, and because I didn't know how far I was going to get through, you know, this was in the early stages where it's like I could be sent home next week, and I don't really want to miss out on these prior commitments that are, you know, helping me financially, and I've also committed to these people. But when I went back in January, it was like, no, you're staying here. You're not like, no one's leaving. You know, not like you're not held as a prisoner, but but it was like,
do not leave your room.
But it was like, no, like we highly recommend that you stay here if you want to, you know, at least have the best chance of getting through. And because again, me traveling gave me more chance of like getting COVID or something going wrong, and I couldn't make it back for filming, and that could, you know, be the end of me. So yeah, all of January I was there. December, was on and off, but probably 2 and a bit months all up. And then, you film everything. and then the show goes to air maybe 3-4 months later.
And you have to obviously keep quiet about everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be the tough
Jeez,
part.
that's bloody hard.
Yeah.
Right when I asked that question, I just realised that you were with everyone when it got announced.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't live; it was pre-recorded.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine how like you're sitting there with everyone that you love, all your friends, all your family. You know, like the
Surely a couple of them. No.
Well, so I didn't know. Oh, you boys don't know.
Oh
either.
no, I think I do. I just realised they record two or three reactions.
So they actually recorded all four of us winning. On that last day of filming, we all stand on the stage and Sonia says, and the winner is Faith. And then you go, wow, like, oh my God, she sings her winner single, and then it's like, cut, and the winner is Lachie, and you go,
feels so let down.
Oh, that hurts.
That really does.
Sorry,
I feel like an idiot.
So do I.
Look at us.
We were just shocked.
Yeah. Does that mean I was a good actor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So it was very strange, but I think by the end of the filming, that's switched on to like, you know, the cameras and how things work. You're just like, all right, this is another part of the show. It's like, you know, you almost put yourself in the shoes. How would I feel if I actually did win? And then you give that reaction. Obviously, it's still
Don't overcompensate.
Yeah, obviously it's still
just running around the stage.
Yeah.
Crying.
But you're like, you know, how would I feel if I was to win?
That's
and then
hard.
you put yourself in those shoes. But yeah, so I didn't actually know. So I spent however long, I think it was probably 3-4 months before the final came around that I had no idea. I knew I was in the top 4 and I couldn't share that with anyone, but I didn't know who was going to win until that night that everyone watched it. And I was watching the TV. There's a video of me watching it with all friends and family. We organised a cinema to watch it in because we just wanted to have the best experience. And I was, you know, that was the first show that I was singing. I think I sung 3 songs on the finale. So I was like, whatever happens, at least I've got 3 performances that everyone can watch. And we all packed into the cinema. And
Good old Hoyts Frankston.
No, we're actually at Southland.
Nice.
Yeah.
Grab yourself some popcorn, guys.
Yeah. And so we got in there and I'm sort of looking around just going, oh shit, like I might not win. Like this is going to be so bad. This is going to be like, I don't know. Everyone's got their cameras out, you know, waiting. Imagine if, like I didn't think about it until we're all in there. I'm like, oh my God, like, and, you know, and I spoke to a few people about it. They're like, we're going to be happy regardless. You got into the final. And I'm still like, geez, that would be a flat moment. Like
flat as a biscuit.
Yeah, I'd just be like, get me out of the cinema.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great last show. And it's good to have everyone there regardless of what happened. And turned out great that I had all my family and friends there to celebrate it with me.
Before we kind of move on from The Voice, is there something that stands out to you, like one thing that you might have learnt, like a piece of advice that you were given that like was just the biggest light bulb moment that's really helped you, both like one of the coaches or just some, or even just being around so many people and being around productions and all that sort of thing? Is there anything that stands out that you really like learnt?
Yeah, I think a lot of people had sort of the same thoughts on my situation, and definitely Rita had the same thought. It was, I wasn't the biggest voice or the, you know, sing the highest or the lowest, but I had my own thing going on. You know, they loved my tone, they loved my connection with the songs. So it was sort of a realization of like, stop looking around, stop looking and comparing yourself to these other singers, because they're doing what they do really great and I'm doing what I do really great. And you can't put them two side by side and say that person's better than that person, because you're just completely different, you know? And so it took a while for me through that process, because you are standing next to these amazing singers and these amazing musicians, that it's hard not to compare yourself to them. And so, the early stages, I was doubting myself, like, why am I even here? Or how am I even getting through? And eventually it was like, no, you're getting through because you're great at what you do.
Yep.
You've got something different and something special. Just keep going with that. Don't try and change, and don't try and sing different because other people are doing that. It's like you do what you're doing and do it as best as you can, and it'll sort of speak for itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do have to ask this, right? So, watching the telly the other night, Australian Idol's coming on.
Yep.
It's about to start. And I couldn't help but just laugh. We actually cringed a little bit, but it must be how they do it, the magic of production on TV. But they did an audition at this guy's house, but they made it out like he didn't know it was happening. But then he answered the door with his guitar in his hand, and then he played a song in front of Amy Shark, and the parents are in the window,
in the background,
like put perfectly behind where he's playing, just like
as if they stumbled across it randomly. Yeah.
And then he gets the card to go to Sydney, and all the family are hugging, and then it went to coming soon or whatever, and we just laughed our heads off. Like, is that what it's like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think once you go and experience it for yourself,
Yeah.
you never see it the same. Yeah. You just and at the same time, I'm not at all throwing dirt on them. It's like it's a lot of the time they need to do this to put on a good show because, like the old formats of shows, it's just so much stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
And it's so like
They need to cover all bases.
And their storytelling.
They need to cover all bases. That it needs to be efficient. They can't stuff around. Like they want to make sure that if they go out and film something, they know what they're doing and they get the right bit of content for the show. It's like as much as you're like, oh, they're lying to me and stuff, it does make for good TV, and I think as well the way the world's working, you can't have that sort of unpolished raw stuff on TV anymore because so many things can go wrong and it can look really bad. So they sort of eliminate all that by that pre-recording stuff and sort of having a bit more of a plan before they go into things. But it was definitely a big shock. It was.
I mean, he could have left the guitar aside, instead of answering the door with the acoustic.
Yeah, it is funny. There is still some elements. I knew there was on the season before me. There was a brother and sister, Sian and Jordan, and Jordan was auditioning, and his sister was there, sort of supporting him. And
I see where this is going.
Yeah, and they just came up to her and said, "Do you want to audition as well?" And when I heard it, I'm like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
She knew, she knew. But it genuinely, she got told, and she had maybe an hour or whatever it was to practice and audition.
Oh.
And ended up doing amazing. Like she's got a beautiful voice.
Like we're talking in studio.
Yeah,
Like,
she was actually in Sydney with her brother supporting him, and they just came up and said, "We know you sing. Do you want to, while you're here, audition?" And she did. So, it's still reasonably real. Like it's not all fake. Like there's a lot of stuff that is genuine and real, but there is obviously things that they need to sort of have a plan for. So I can only imagine that Idol one was, and truly set up. And planned.
I believed in Santa Claus all those years. I was lied to. The voice lying to me.
Dos is just a skeptic.
I am excited to see Australian Idol though.
Yeah,
just to see if they still have those same elements of. And I have seen a few on the ads where they've got the not so good singers.
Oh yeah, they're the best ones.
And people love that, but I sort of thought that might have been taken out of TV and just because of. Like it's so horrible.
That used to be if I was feeling down when I used to live with my ex-partner. That's what we would do.
Really?
Is we'd go on YouTube and just type in worst and funny auditions.
I know,
on X Factor with Simon Cowell and all the like.
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious.
Yeah,
like, when people think they can sing, they're not good singers.
And it's
and you feel sorry for them, but
you do.
It's fucking hilarious. Like
the only reason I feel sorry for them is because it's like. It's not them, it's the people around them. It's like, where are their mates? Where are their friends? Like, who's telling them that, hey, maybe you should practice?
You should do this. You shouldn't go on the show. You shouldn't go in front of the whole of the country and really embarrass yourself.
There actually is footage I can't remember, but it's a mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law and obviously the mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law's there and she thinks she's so delirious. Like, so maybe they do just think they're...
It's crazy how it comes to that point because, I might tell my mate that he's doing good even if it's not that great. But if it got to the point where he's putting himself out there, I'd be like, hey man, I think you should think about it. Maybe practice for another.
So when you say I'm a good singer,
year or so.
you don't really mean
you
it.
are a good singer. Well, again, it's the company you're with. Maybe in comparison to Lachie, but
In the shower.
yeah. Remember that guy on Idol? He sang Push Up, and he ended up doing quite well for himself. So
That's it.
sometimes it works
and
out.
some of them are going on their purpose.
Yeah.
Like,
A little
trying
bit
to make a fool of themselves to get a viral video or something like that.
Was there any moments that they told you to do something and you're like, this is just so cringe, or you had to what's the word? Like they cut and you have to redo it again and again and again, like to a point of frustration. Was there any of those moments, or was it?
Not really. And maybe that was because I'd sort of spoken with them about, again, not like these are my conditions or else I won't do it, but just sort of setting out a few of my sort of
Boundaries
with it and with TV. And I just sort of said, even with my backstory, because they need a story, they need something to be like, hey, that's the guy that does this. It's very easy for audiences to go, oh, I know that guy. He was the footy player or he was the jockey. Yeah. Like it's easier for the audience. So I understood that you needed a backstory, but I just never wanted to be that guy with the sad story, because I'm like, everyone has something sad going in their lives. Everyone's lost someone or everyone's gone through this. It's like, unless it is a part of who you are and it has played a big part in shaping who you are, I understand if that's the route that they go down to sort of, form their music and stuff. I understand why they choose that story. But for me, it was like, I don't want to tell you that, my grandpa passed away just to try and get people to sympathize with me.
Yeah.
It was like, no, this is what I do. I'm a teacher. I play footy and I do music. And that was sort of it. So I'm like, that's what you can do. So I was pretty firm from the get-go with things. So there wasn't really any moments that I'm like, oh, no. Nah. Because, again, there was times when I'm like, oh, that's a weird song choice. But I was already there, and I'm like, you've got to just, you do to a certain degree, have to go with the flow and listen to them and take on board some of the ideas, or else, either they won't want you there because you're just being super boring, or, you won't learn or grow from doing different things. So when they gave me the song Deja Vu by Olivia Rodrigo, that was a moment when I was like, oh, that's an interesting song choice. And I was sort of like, oh, I don't know if that's me, but we sort of worked on it, and I was like, stuff it. Let's give it a go. And it turned out to be my favorite performance of the whole journey, just because it was different to me. I got to go outside my comfort zone, move around a little bit, take the mic, and I wasn't really dancing, but move around a little bit at least. And I loved it.
Yeah, cool.
So there was moments when I was like, oh, let's give it a go. I'll trust you guys. But no moments when I was like, no, definitely not doing that. Yeah.
So how quickly is the process then to you win, you become a part of a record label, you sign your deal, and, your single is released, and then all of a sudden now you're continuing to write music, and now you've got somewhat of a brand or a personal brand to uphold, and you've got ambassador commitments, and you're doing this and that. How quickly does all this just become reality?
Yeah, it happens very quick. Like an hour quick. Like I think I went to bed at, 4 a.m. that night when I found out, because I was just on top of the moon, and we just went back to my place, and I was with my family, drinking and watching back the show on the telly and all this. And then I woke up at 5 a.m. and had a car picking me up from my place, taking me into the city to do TV and radio.
Wow.
I think I did 25 radio interviews that next day in
the one day,
and two TV appearances as
off
well.
1 hour sleep.
Off 1 hour sleep.
Oh.
And
lucky for those 8 vodka Red Bulls.
exactly. I was seriously, it didn't wear off for days. Like I could have just kept going, and I was just so happy to just talk to anyone and everyone. Just like I was so happy. So yeah, I think I did maybe 6 or 7 in the car on the way up there, just
on
answering just radio. I had a little schedule from my publicist that I'd been given that day.
Did I give you a script?
No script. It was
cool.
actually kind of a bit a bit risky on their behalf, just sort of let me out into the wild without sort of, you know, giving me any sort of pointers or anything. It was sort of just like, be yourself.
Because you look at, like, you played footy, obviously probably wanted to play AFL one day. You look at all those players, they're all media trained, you know, so they know what to say straight away. But it's interesting to hear on your side, like, right after you won, it wasn't that way.
No, and I mean, you sort of learn stuff throughout the show in terms of, you know, interviews and cameras and things like that. But no, it's just very much so, here's your schedule, here's who you're going to talk to, and off you go. And it was a bit scary because there was a bit of controversy with like me winning, about, you know, being the white guy on the show, and sort of brought up all these other issues, you know, which wasn't the case. You know, I was very close with the other three, and we were all so excited for each other regardless of who won. So it didn't really play on my mind. But, you know, the first interview I answered, the first question was, how do you feel being the white guy that won the show? And I'm like, what? Like, this is off 1 hour sleep. I had no time to look at any messages, at any, you know, articles. Like, I didn't have enough time to reply to my mates. I'm not going to go scroll the internet and find out what's being said. That was the first question, and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I was just like, I'm not sure.
What an unbelievable question.
Yeah, and I sort of just bypassed it, and then sort of more interviews brought it up, and I'm just sort of like, you know, I think that's just me kind of, I don't know where I got it from, but I'm sort of okay at, you know, talking to people, and I know when the right thing to say, like, you know, and I knew that wasn't something that I should spend time on and give them an answer. So it's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, I'm just happy people voted for me to be the winner, and that's that. And then they'd kind of go, okay, he's not going to give us anything. Let's talk about other stuff. So yeah, it was scary in a way and a little bit daunting, but at the same time, I was on top of the world. So I was just like, you know, let's just chat.
I just can't believe that, like, it's your first day, literally, and they're trying to get you to stumble and say something that could totally just derail everything you've just done. It's just, anyway.
Yeah. But I think that's, you know, that's media, and that's what happens. You know, there's always got to be something, because at the end of the day, like, us as the consumers, you do naturally click on the clickbait titles and the controversy, and you're like, oh, what's going on? You know, no one sees, you know, the teacher from Mornington Peninsula.
Yeah, well, just to let you know, like, the headline will be "White Boy Wins the Voice." Yeah, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Who taught at an orphanage in Africa. That's how we'll spin it.
So I do understand it, but it was just a little bit unfortunate because, you know, I was so close with the other three, and it was such a happy moment that, you know, was getting a little bit of backlash for whatever reason. But it lasts, you know, a week, and then, you know, people forget about it. So it wasn't a big issue for me.
So now, again, so much has happened. You're releasing singles. You're having video clips made, music videos made.
Close enough.
I was back in VH1 for a second then. And now you got Universal, and you got your management, and all, like, everything just happens so quickly. Yeah. Like, it's how is your life changing? You're probably getting recognised all the time. What are the key elements of your life that has totally just flipped? And are you enjoying it? Or
I'm loving it. Sorry, I realised I didn't answer like any of your questions.
That's fine. I did think that. I'm like, deal, ask it. Yeah, that's all right, mate.
No, it's been great. I was talking to you boys before we jumped on. It was like, I've just been given all these people. I've been given the management. We got signed to an agency. You got the Universal Music, a team within that are helping me out, and it's just all turned out amazing. Like, everyone I'm working with, great. My manager's an absolute legend, and it's just like they really want me to succeed.
That's great.
You know, from the back of the show, it was like, all right, sit down, let's plan it out. What do we want to do? You know, these are going to be the opportunities that come up. Do we want to go down this road?
Cool.
Do we want to do this? It's, you know, they sort of set the scene for a few different scenarios. And
so when you say those scenarios, do you mean, is this like, hey, we're going to release these albums in this order? Or is it, you're going to do more TV appearances? What are the scenarios?
Well, so it's even more so the bigger picture. It's almost like, hey, you've just won the show. You could spend the next 6 months, 12 months absolutely grinding and playing everywhere and getting as many opportunities as possible and just taking everything that comes, and you'll make good money, and you'll be out there for a year, but it won't necessarily be beneficial to a long career.
Sure.
Won't last
in
forever.
music. It won't last forever, and that's just the sort of option that you could take. Or we could go down the road of not worrying too much about trying to get on the train of The Voice while everything's hot and
Leave I'm a celebrity for another few years.
it's like maybe be a bit more methodical and think about the different opportunities. Maybe choose the ones that are going to be most suited. Let's just spend a bit more time maybe creating the music, getting the music ready, and setting ourselves up for the future. Because at the end of the day, I've won the show, but that doesn't make you now a Australian pop star or bona fide artist. It's like, if anything, it's almost like harder because now I'm the guy from The Voice, and it's easier to not be as credible.
Sure.
Because you were just on a TV show and now you've got these people listening. It's like, oh, it's only because you were on the show. Whereas I wanted to write music, get myself set up to the point where it's like, let's release music and force people to go, he's not just the guy off The Voice, he's actually an artist and he wants to be here for longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And who cares about, the hype around the show and trying to get that traction from the show. It's like, doesn't matter if that dies off, let's build it.
Yeah, I like that.
Let's release music, good music, that, builds you organic fans and followers.
To a point where almost you forget that it was The Voice that...
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you'll never forget that, but it's like Guy Sebastian's a great example. You almost just forget where he came from. Like, he started with Australian Idol. Like, it's in the back of your mind, but now it's more than he's the winner of Australian Idol Season 1. He's Guy Sebastian.
100%.
Yeah.
And there's heaps... I think internationally there seems to be more recognised artists coming from... shows these days, but I think it still happens, in Australia. But people like Callum Scott, it's like you forget that he was on a TV show, and now he's...
I didn't know he was on X Factor until I saw that video when he got the golden buzzer.
That's the thing, and that's based off his probably 100% dedication and hard work once the show finished to actually put out good music and work his ass off to make sure that people don't just remember him for a show. They go, oh, he's got that song that did really well, and you're remembering them from the music that they made, not from seeing them on TV.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, and I actually was going to ask this earlier, and I must have just forgot about it, but did that thought stop you from potentially auditioning again? Because, you do hear that, like, oh, well, if someone goes on, say, a singing show, it's almost like a cheat code. Like, you're getting publicity straight up, like... You hear people go, no, I want to do it naturally. I want to become an artist on my own, do it the right way. What are your thoughts on?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That was probably the one thing stopping me from going back on, because they had asked me pretty much every year from 18, being like, hey, you're going to come back? And I'm like, nah. And then eventually I'm like, had that chat with them about it. I'd spoken to, 2 of the producers, and we ended up on a Zoom chat for probably 2 hours just talking about things. And I just laid out things saying like, how come there hasn't been a massive, artist that's gone nuts on the show recently? And, all these sort of questions that I had around that, because there was, all these stories about just what happens to the winners. Like, it's no point of going on a show because there's no pathway after it. So it was definitely on my mind. But the main thing that they would say, it's like, it's completely the ball's in your court. Like, a lot of people might win a show and think, oh, great, I've won a show, I've got a recording deal. Like, happy days, like, it's all going to start happening now. And they sort of just sit on that and think that, people are going to come to you with these opportunities, it's going to be super easy because you've just won a show. It's like, it's not. No. It's not how it works. It's like, that's when it starts. It's like, you're now in the public eye and you've got a little bit more of a little bit more recognition and more people watching and listening to your music, but you've still got to put in the work to stick around, you know? And so they said that to me, and I was kind of like, well, I'm going to work hard after the show regardless of whether I get on TV once or win, which I never thought was an option.
Yeah.
Never once thought that I was going to win, but I knew whatever happened, I was going to work my ass off after it.
That's great.
To get to the point where people are like, oh no, he is an artist. He's not just a singer on a show. So I don't know if you know, it is harder being someone that has won, because there is this like thing hanging over their head of like, you know, they're the winner of a show, they're not a real artist. I'm not sure if that sort of outweighs the positives of now having the resources from the label and things like that. But for me, it sort of doesn't matter. It's like, I'm just going to work for however long it takes to, you know, for something to pop off and happen and stay in the music industry.
Love it. We're going to get to, I've just got one more question because we've got a heap of fan questions.
Are we going to ask all of them?
Not all of them. We'll get.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, so we'll just get through a few of them. But just quickly, like, do you have pressure to pump out a certain amount of songs now, or do they want quality over quantity? I'm not asking necessarily what you want, but did the record deal come to you and say, hey, we need to pump out X amount of songs? Almost like we're talking off air about TikTok and putting out heaps of content because eventually one's going to pop off. Is there a similar kind of thought to music, or is it like, no, let's work longer at more quality rather than let's just get heaps out and see what goes?
Nah, definitely it's still getting the best songs.
Cool.
You know, however long it takes you to write a song that you think can do well, that's what it takes. There's a lot that goes into putting out a single.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of people involved. So you're not going to put that effort in for a song that you don't even believe in.
Yeah.
You know, or that no one thinks that it has a potential to go big, you know. So it is very much so, let's write until we hit an absolute banger that we think, and then we can go into releasing it.
Is there timelines?
There is rough timelines. They always seem to sort of get pushed out because there's so much. Yeah, because there's so much that's involved, and everything seems to, you know, take its own little bit of time that just adds to the overall timeline being thrown out. But for me, it's just singles at the moment, so we haven't actually sort of put in time to thinking of an album, or, you know, I've got heaps of music there. So if that comes to being what it is, we'll be ready. But it's more just at the moment sort of singles, putting songs out, because it's still in like the early stages of me as an artist.
Yeah, of course.
And finding, you know, I mean, I've found what I enjoy making, and I'm always going to do that. But even finding the fans and sort of working out what is going to be doing the best for me. Because I was doing sad songs all through the show, you know, and I love writing sad music and releasing sad music, but I also love, you know, pop music and music that's up and about, but I just never had the resources to make that sort of music. But now I'm working with producers and things like that can help me to make that type of music. And so I can put it out, but my fans and people that enjoy my music may not love that as much as they love the sad stuff. So it's still like a bit of trial and error, like experimenting with, okay, what actually does do the best, put out a upbeat song, see how it goes, put out a sad song, all right, that's what people love, let's keep writing more.
Did they have
sad
to sign
music,
off on
you know?
it? Like,
yeah, there's lots of people that are working with me, but there's no boss. There's no overriding boss that goes, no, you can't put that song out, or we're putting that song out if you like it or not. It's like, let's look from a strategy point of view. Let's think about it properly. This song's really great and it has the potential to do this, but it might not be the right fit for right now because of, it could even be like for Sad Summer, it was like, this is a great time to release a fun sort of summery vibe. Even though it's called Sad Summer, it is quite
it's upbeat,
upbeat
makes
song,
you feel good,
you know. And it's like
very contradicting.
And it's like, to release that in the middle of winter may not be the best bet. You know, it's like the weather's bloody good now. Well, it's not quite. We're in Melbourne. We're still in Melbourne, but like, you know what I mean. The warm weather's coming around. It's going to be a good chance for when we're thinking about it. Oh, if it gets on radio, they're going to love it because, you know, they love playing sort of fun, happy
Yeah.
songs on
Window
the radio.
down,
Yeah,
sunroof
exactly.
That's the vibe, yeah.
So there's lots of things that you think about when you're releasing, but I don't think anyone really knows.
Sure.
So it is very much so just like, we love this song. There's, however many people, 10 people weighing in on this song. If 10 people love it, it's like, it's got a good chance of lots of other people loving it.
Yeah.
Well, mate, everyone's loving right now Sad Summer. Everyone's going ballistic on it. We've got a few questions here from all those beautiful people that
Awesome.
that you've got following you. And thank you for sharing that, because off the back of that, mate, all your fans have just come in.
We should have said one question each, guys. Jeez.
Yeah.
Some of them are asking like 3.
I like-
People loaded up.
I love this first one because it relates to your backstory. Will Lachie get to perform at the 2023 AFL Grand Final?
That was, and give her a shout out. That was Judy.Kelly.
Judy, thank you, Judy.
Well, I mean, I don't have any goss for you. I'm not like locked in, but
But
I would love to.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love to, and I wanted to do the 2022, but it just no opportunity sort of came up for that. But I would love to. That's always going to be on my bucket list as a footy player. It's like that would be sick. I played a show at the MCG just for a Melbourne match during last year, and
Was that a Carlton game?
no, it was. I can't remember.
Wasn't North Melbourne, was it?
Melbourne, Brisbane, maybe it was.
Okay.
Can't remember. But that was pretty surreal moment, like playing at the MCG.
Yeah,
It was
of course.
I would have loved to be running out there as a footy player, but that didn't work out. So
Wanna
now
see-
I'm here as a singer.
Well, Vance Joy has a background in footy too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you and him will get along well.
Well, maybe me and him can do
Yeah.
a duet
Oh, that'd be
at
good.
the grand final.
Come on, Gil, get it done. Chloe_Legato_music. What inspired you to write songs?
So I actually wrote my first. It's quite a sad story. I don't know if we want to get sad, but my friend, one of my best friends, when we were 16, he passed away, committed suicide when I was 16, and that was so heavy at that time. It was the first experience I had had with suicide, and I hadn't really. It never affected me, and never really affected the people around me, and off the bat of that, it was like, wow, like I was obviously feeling some crazy emotions from that. And I just started learning how to play guitar. And I was like, I really want to write a song for him and about this, whether it can, help other people or whatever it was. So I actually wrote a song about that. And I put it up on Facebook. And not really many people knew that that I sung or that I played guitar. But I put it up on Facebook. Don't think Instagram was even around back then. And people just, obviously the connection to my friend Justin, everyone was like, wow, that is just amazing. But then it reached a whole new level of people, and just the response from it was, incredible. And I obviously didn't do it to get that. It wasn't for that. It was for myself, to sort of release some of the things I was feeling. But after that, it was kind of like, wow, like you can sort of really affect people with music, in very positive ways and help people through things. And it was like, wow. And like that was almost my first time trying to write something. So from then on, I'm just like, I'm going to keep doing it. And so from then on, I just kept writing in it. And there was a lot of sad stuff that I was writing about, but then I was sort of trying different things to write about, and I was like, I actually love doing this. This is awesome. And then it just carried on. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, great question. Well, this is from a friend of yours, Mason DeWitt. He goes,
Here we go.
what? It's true he was living his best days in the NT with the boys. Is that true?
Is that a question? Is that
It's got a question mark. It says,
Yeah.
What's
few
it? What
spelling errors there?
Yeah,
I think that's
nice.
supposed to be was.
for a school teacher?
Yeah. He is
Come
a
on,
school
mate.
teacher.
There's a tongue emoji too, which is never a good sign.
Jeez.
Or maybe we just
I
bypass
think it was-
yeah,
was
maybe
it-
we
was it-
bypass.
So we went
I would
to,
say that's was it true?
Yeah.
So we went to the NT together to play footy.
Yeah.
We went up to play for the Tiwi Bombers.
Love it.
And that was during COVID, and we got away, and it was unreal.
Good time.
Darwin was completely open. There was no rules or restrictions or
yeah.
anything like that. It was just all steams ahead. So absolutely loved it. And me and him lived together for a little bit over there. He's a bit of a mess. Mason.
He's doing great things at the moment, we've got to
Yeah, he
say.
is.
Nah, he's doing great. He's a legend.
So, oh jeez, Sienna _ Sienna Foreign. She's written a few, but we'll just give you one. Who was your best friend on The Voice?
I would have to be Robbie Dolan, easily.
Second shout out for the great man.
Yeah, he is a great man. Still chat to him, so he's doing good things as well. Yeah.
That's a good one.
And then from Mikey Bednarak, is there going to be more ballads or up-tempo songs in your new album? Good question.
Yeah, so there'll definitely be a mix of more sort of up-tempo stuff, similar to Sad Summer, and then there'll be some pretty sad ballads as well to come, for sure.
All those going through heartbreaks.
Yeah. There's definitely some sad ones, and I love singing those ones because as much as I love the upbeat ones, it's like, even from the show, it's like I realize that people love my connection to songs and that raspiness of my voice. So it's like I can't really show that off too much in the fun, happy ones, upbeat ones. They're more just for the vibe of the song, not necessarily like, wow, he's got great vocals or he's a great singer. Whereas the ballads, it's like I can proper go for it, give it a bit, and it's more like, holy moly. So, yeah, there'll be more of that for sure.
Love it. And we might make this the last one. Rita.Eleanor Archive. What was Rita like as a coach? I think that's a Rita fan page. But what was Rita like as a coach?
Yeah, she was great. She was it's funny, you put these people on a pedestal and you sort of forget that they're real people.
Yeah.
But the few times early days that you interacted with them, you're like, wow, like these coaches that you just see on TV and you just see in the spotlight, like they're normal people with normal lives and they're just down to earth people. Yeah. And Rita was one of those. She was an absolute legend. She came to one of our sort of rehearsals in like a pajamas with slippers on, drinking a cup of tea, and it was just like no makeup. And it's like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's just completely raw and like you're not seeing that sort of filtered version of them. You're just seeing them completely normal as normal people.
Shows they genuinely care about your development too.
100%.
It's not just for the show.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, I mean, it's weird. Like I feel like you do it for like school teachers when you're younger as well. You forget that they're normal people and you just think that they're your teacher.
When you run into them at Coles,
Yeah, or like, if you happen to see them out drinking a beer, you're like, oh my God, that's my teacher drinking a beer. And you're like, well, they're an adult. They're allowed to go out to the bar and have a drink. So it's kind of that realization. And then you sort of, they have the same stresses and the same, they get nervous for performances, and it just makes you feel a lot better with yourself because you're like, well, they're an international pop star and they're feeling nervous and they've got these worries. It's like, absolutely, I'm allowed to have them as well then, and it just makes you feel better about the whole situation and sort of sometimes you can feel like you're so far away from that and that you've got so much work to do to get there, but then you have these moments and you're like, I'm not that far away at all,
Which is so cool.
Yeah, which is awesome. They've just had a little bit more experience, a little bit more time to perfect what they're doing.
For sure.
So yeah, it's a pretty cool moment.
Do you stay in touch with them post show on the?
No, I think you probably could. I mean, someone like Rita, it's pretty hard because she's a super busy person and she's obviously got so much going on. So I haven't been in touch with her.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not necessarily going out and trying to talk to her.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason there was something that I thought could be beneficial talking to her, I'd do it. But it's like, I'm not going to be able to do a duet with her and get a song released with Rita Ora. So it's like I've got to work my way up to get to that point.
Yeah, of course. Well, mate, it's been over an hour, so I reckon we better call it because we've got to let you go. But we just wanted to say, how cool was this?
Amazing. Unbelievable.
Very, very lucky to have you here with us. And we honestly, genuinely, we appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
so thanks,
definitely.
Lachie, for making the time and
Thanks, boys.
making it happen. And, well done. Congratulations on what you've done and all the hard work you've put in. It's, we know, like what you said, it's only just getting started. But we know you're going to be doing amazing things. So we can't wait to watch.
Appreciate it, boys.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, mate.